The time is now 31 ohm cycles. I am Tucillus of Mars. If you are at all privy to the YouTube sphere, you have likely heard of the recent goings-on at VidCon, particularly Anita Sarkeesian, who is publicly berating Carl Benjamin, also known as Sargon of Akkad. In order to continue her victim narrative, Ms. Sarkeesian immediately stated that Carl's mere presence constituted harassment. In other words, a panel member cursed at a silent audience member in front of everyone, and then claimed that she was the victim. If you have a state of mind where such an event constitutes harassment on part of the audience member, then I'm sorry, but you're not allowed to come to my planet. I'm not actually upset at Anita Sarkeesian. She's full of crap, obviously, but then again, to reserve anger for someone so reliably contemptible is pointless. When I hear about events like this, the people I reserve my anger for is the management. If they deal with the situation appropriately, then justice will be served and we can all go about our business. If, however, they cow out of fear of being labeled sexist or racist, then one must immediately call them on it, because those people are the types that give the professional victims of the world their power. Whether you think what happened to Anita was harassment, by which I mean if you think people you don't like being in the same auditorium with you is harassment, the fact is Anita broke the rules of the convention, and should have been removed. At the very least removed from her following panel. Even if one were to disregard that rule in her case, I would at least think that equal consideration should be paid to all people who broke that rule. Linked in the description, you will find a decision made by one of VidCon's co-founders, Hank Green, known as being one of the Vlog Brothers. Spoiler alert, he does not remove Anita from her next panel. This in itself isn't surprising. Anyone who's watched Hank Green talk for 5 consecutive minutes knows he's a leftist. He does, in his follow-up Twitter postings, claim that he's giving Anita a second chance, as he's done to many VidConners, which I think is fair. Don't get me wrong, I imagine those second chances are applied very selectively, but I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt that he is fair with this unwritten policy. I am bothered by a few things. Number 1, his condescension and passive aggression towards Sargon and his audience. Quote, "What both of these issues have driven home for the VidCon team is that people are often bad at understanding their own power. We imagine ourselves to be simply people, just another human among the billions with one tiny voice. But trolling, whatever that is, really does drive people from our platforms and end their dreams of being creators. A simple stroll through a hotel lobby really can endanger people's safety. These days, success can happen fast, and creators might not yet have understood or accepted the responsibility their influence brings. Maybe that is especially true when creators have built a fan base with the kind of inflammatory rhetoric and audience development strategies that can potentially turn their followers into more than just trolls. We are all watching as those techniques wear at the fabric of not just internet culture, but our whole world." End quote. Yes, Hank, people don't understand their own power, but that cuts both ways. You are the co-founder of a massive YouTube conference. Anita was the main panelist on a stage with a microphone and an audience of hundreds. Sargon? Guy in a crowd. Though I suppose it's his fault for controlling his audience's minds and making them criticize a highly contemptible internet personality when she's being hypocritical. You tell your audience to imagine people complexly, yet you have no problem reducing people with an opposing opinion as just a bunch of trolls. Number 2. This is a smaller note, but in the same passage he lumps in all the paying trolls with non-paying trolls, implying that some of them stole their way in, reducing their identities even further by implying that they are also potential thieves. You should not imply that your paying customers might be criminals, Hank. It's bad business sense, and misleading your audience like that is unethical. Number 3. And this is the big one. When approaching Anita Sarkeesian about how she violated VidCon policy, he told her two things. Some nonsense about recognizing that there's a broader context to the problem, and, quote, he apologized to her for not having been more aware of and active in understanding the situation before the event, which resulted in her being subjected to a hostile environment that she had not signed up for, end quote. That's right. He apologized to Anita for Anita breaking the rules. This infuriates me. One does not apologize for having done nothing wrong, and one should never apologize to the wrongdoer. Carl Benjamin never receives an apology for being harassed despite being a paying customer, and Anita is so good at playing the victim that she can abuse people and have people apologize to her. Mr. Green, you made the rules for the convention for a reason, and rules that are applied selectively are garbage rules. I don't care what side of the issue you fall on. Whatever happened out in the rest of the world is irrelevant unless Anita has a restraining order, which she did not. Carl was a paying customer, and a guest speaker is required to show a certain level of professionalism. If you do not enforce such basic standards, while you will probably remain successful, you will be running a poor and unethical business. I know that you're trying not to rock the boat, and I know that you want to be nice. But being nice and being right are not synonymous. Sarkeesian blatantly broke the rules. Keep her in if you honestly believe in giving her a second chance. Which, by the way, she blew by immediately yelling at Boogie, the nicest man she could find. But at least have the backbone not to apologize to her. And on a final note, Sargon, Carl Benjamin, criticizes. His audience gets outraged on their own accord, and people have every right to be outraged at outrageous people. If you ban people based on how much outrage they stir up, then nobody will ever be able to film Anita, because people will see the twisted things that she has to say, and they will respond appropriately. Thank you very much.